Batman and Robin number 22, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Patrick Gleason. This is also Batman and Catwoman, but I digress. So, this issue, after last issue, which was, I believe, the bargaining phase, this is Despair, which, I guess. But we open up with Catwoman, who is talking about how, she's got this heist for this thing called the Ram in a Thicket, which is just this little ancient figurine dating back over 4,000 years. And she just wants to steal it. And I'm not even sure if she's stealing it for somebody, but she is picking it up here. And as she's stealing it from the museum, she gets a call from Steve Trevor, because of course she's in the JLA. And she's like, hey, sorry to interrupt your time off, but we've got a situation that requires your talents. Get on it. So at that point, we cut over to Bruce, who is waking up at 11 in the morning, and Carrie Kelly is in his kitchen. And she is just recording him, and it's just like, oh yeah, hey, early bird gets the worm, I guess. And Bruce is like, what are you doing in my house? I thought that, we dealt with this. I gave you money and you go away. And she's like, oh yeah, I got hired by Alfred. And at that point, Bruce just yells out for Alfred for an explanation. And turns out that Alfred had hired Carrie to give her attention to Titus, Damien's dog, 3 times a week. So she's just showing up here 3 times a week to take care of the dog. And Bruce is like, why can't you do that, Alfred? And he's just like, I'm a bit busy with a few other things, in case you haven't noticed. So basically, we have Carrie explaining, like, yeah, I really felt close to Damien. Like, we had a brother-sister thing going on. He told me about a lot of aspects of his life, and he really opened up to me. He was into, acting. He wanted to get into acting and such like that, and he really had a knack for it. So we see that Carrie is like, hey, by the way, you promised me that I could talk to him. And Bruce just is like, yeah, I forgot about that. I'll be sure to tell him to give you a call. And she's like, nah, that's not really good enough. Here's the deal. I have 2 flash drives here. One of them contains the interview I did with Damien in order to see, his acting ability and such like that, and how interested he was in this. Usually I don't share that with parents, but, he's a minor, so sure, here you go. But I'll only give this to you under the circumstance that you have Damien call me. And he says, all right, and what's the other thing? What's the other film? And it's like, oh, well, it's Damien's short film he made. It's a thing about Titus the dog. They filmed that. And so Bruce says, fine, whatever, deal. So he picks up the flash drives, sends Carrie on her way, and Bruce then heads down into the Batcave. And Alfred's like, oh, it's nice to have a bit of youth around the house. And it's like, yeah, it was. So we see, as far as I can tell, Bruce just heads out to Damien's grave, puts the flash drives on the ground next to it, and he's like, oh yeah, your friend wanted me to have this, but seems right to go to you. Like, he doesn't even check them. But he does keep his word and seemingly fakes a audio file of Damien's voice to call up Carrie. But we see in order to do this, he has to listen through tons and tons of mission footage of Damien's voice, and it's just breaking him down. He is just sitting and brooding in his chair, super hardcore. And then all of a sudden he gets an alert on the back computer, and it's a Catwoman signal, which, sure. And so he goes out and just like, Catwoman, what do you want? And just like, oh, a little bit of everything, this and that. And he's like, I am not in the mood. What do you want? And she's like, fair enough. I'm working with the JLA. And he's like, well, Trinity War hasn't happened yet, so that's completely insane. There's no way you are. And she's like, nope, I totally am. I'm their special secret member. And they want me to go in and get a spy that has been taken hostage. There's an asset. We got to go in and get this spy out and got to take care of that. And he's like, all right. And it's like, oh, well, I figured maybe you'd want to help me out. I could really use some friends in bat places. And he's like, fine, whatever. So at that point, she reveals it's underneath a Chinese embassy. So that's a problem. So at that point, they go into the sewers. Batman has a floor disintegrating gun and he just shoots it, and it allows them to break into the embassy, and they just go through and start knocking out all the guards, and they make sure that no one is made aware that they were there at all. And as they finally get up to the top floor where the hostage is being held, turns out this isn't the spy, and it is a young little girl who just wants her mommy and daddy. And Catwoman explains, yeah, okay, so maybe I lied. This girl is the daughter of a man who defected away from this superhero, or supervillain, I should say, group, because he didn't want to make any more monsters, and they're holding the daughter hostage in order to get him to come back and like make more supervillains. So yeah, that's a thing. So at that point, Batman and Catwoman's like, fine, all right, we'll save the girl. Clearly that needs to happen. So they go and start beating the crap out of all the different guys. We see Batman jumping in to save Catwoman once or twice, and in the end, it comes down to Batman has just some random, I guess the guy who's running it money-wise, he's got a gun to the little girl's head, and Batman's like, you just saw what we did to the superpowered people. You're not going to be able to stop us. Drop the gun. And he's like, fair enough. So he puts down the gun. They get the little girl, and Batman just knocks the guy out. Steve Trevor's called in to take care of all the mess, and before they arrive, Batman's like, all right, let's get this girl out of here. So they're going to jump from the rooftop, and the girl's like, oh, should I close my eyes? And Batman's like, have you ever wanted to fly? And she says, yeah. And he's like, don't close your eyes then. As they go over the city, and it seems like Batman's actually cracking a little smile. So Catwoman arrives back at her penthouse, and when she gets there, there is a motorcycle helmet with cat ears on it, and a note from Batman saying, hey, I think it was in your book that I destroyed your helmet. Here's a new one. Sorry. And so she's super in on that. And then Carrie Kelly across town is getting home with some groceries. She listens to a voicemail from Damien, which is, of course, faked. And he just basically says, hey, really enjoyed watching that video. My dad told me that you handed it over. Don't worry about it. I'm totally cool with it. By the way, I'm going to be studying in Malaysia for the next several months. And so maybe because of the time zone differences, we should do all of our communication by email. Looking forward to hearing from you. See you around. So she at least seems to take that on face value. Just like, oh, Damien. So finally, we get one last thing of across town at some fancy restaurant. Two-Face walks in, sits down, pulls out his gun, flips his coin. It comes up on the clean side, and then he just walks out after saying no. So 5 guesses to whatever Two-Face is up to. I mean, I know what it's going to end up being, which is that he's going to be the and Robin of this book for a while, but I don't know why he keeps on walking into restaurants and flipping a coin. That part's still a mystery. So we'll get there. But this one, it's weird because the first book here out of these little 5 stages of grief definitely felt like denial. The second one definitely felt like rage. The third one, as I said last time, was I saw where they were coming with bargaining, but I don't feel like it really stuck the landing. This one didn't even feel like despair. If anything, this was like a happy moment for Batman. It seems like this is more of the acceptance than it was the despair. So I don't know. It just seemed a little off to me. Maybe it was a bit more subtext than I'm giving it credit for, but it just seemed like this was more acceptance than anything else. So overall, it is still a solid issue. The fact that Catwoman's in it, just, whatever, who cares? We easily could have had this be just, he goes and saves a little girl from some group. It's only because he needed to be with somebody to make this work. So I'm going to give this one I'll give it a 7.5. It's good. It's a fine enough issue. It's not really crossing that great threshold, but I can't really point to anything that I disliked in the whole issue. The only thing I might critique is the fact that the quote-unquote supervillain team was just a bunch of no-names and random-ass powers that didn't really seem that important to the story as a whole. But hey, you gotta have a plot, so 7.5.